Black Myth is breaking records, and I knew that this was going to happen. I'm a huge fan of Journey to the West, and playing as the Monkey King is a dream come true. I'm glad that others have also got the chance to get to know about the Chinese mythology. Also, if you love the game and are looking for something similar, then I have made a list of 10 amazing similar games to Black Myth. You'll have an all-out blast playing these games. I have also added some bonus games at the end. So, before we look at the first game on our list, please click that subscribe button. Sekiro. There are only a few great games that come to mind when we talk about similarity to Black Myth, and Sekiro happens to be one of them. It's no doubt that the game is harder than Black Myth, but you'll see certain similarities depending on your basis of differences. In both games, you've got colossal bosses, which will prove to be really hard, and will also give you a sense of accomplishment after beating them. Another cool similarity would be the area designs or environments. Both Sekiro and Black Myth let you explore a variety of regions, which will surely enhance your overall experience. Honestly, this was my favorite feature of Sekiro. I really loved how the game forces you to explore all sorts of areas such as castles, palaces, outskirts, caves, underwater, holy places, and so much more. So I'm really glad that I get to see all this again in Chinese mythology. Sekiro is a pretty good game, but it's definitely not for everyone. A lot of you will definitely quit the game because of its difficulty level. However, believe me, after you're done beating the game or even after killing every single boss, there will be an immensely satisfying feeling that you have accomplished something big. Anyways, some other similar stuff would be the inventory, skill tree, and shrines. I really love how you interact with the shrines in Black Myth. That was another favorite feature after the whole opening sequence. As a player, you can customize yourself and will have a huge inventory where you can store various items. Skill tree is another best feature. It was so good to see that the game offers a lot of abilities. It truly brings out the hidden Monkey King. The staff is such an amazing weapon and definitely worthy of appreciation. You can do a lot of awesome attacks with your staff that look extremely smooth and polished. Nioh series. If you've played Nioh, then you're likely to find some familiar ground when diving into Black Myth. Both games share a great deal of action, combat-focused gameplay, and engaging exploration. Also, we can never forget about the number of boss battles. Plus, you are getting a bonus deal as Nioh has 2 parts. Truly saying, both parts are amazing. The second is quite difficult, but I know some of you will disagree. However, it's my opinion, I think that Nioh 2 is harder than the first part. Each part is loaded with a lot of content. Nioh 2 has a lot of new things that will make you feel like you have a lot to deal with in a good way. Both Nioh and Black Myth showcase mythological content. If you love the Chinese mythology, then dive into Nioh as you'll get to know about the Japanese stuff. The atmosphere is rich with mythical creatures and legendary heroes. It's like a dark version of Journey to the West. One of the key similarities is the combat. If you enjoyed the challenge of mastering different weapons, stances, and magical abilities in Nioh, you'll probably get a kick out of the combat system in Black Myth. It's fast-paced, fluid movement, dodging, and pulling off those critical hits at just the right moment. Even the intro will make you feel captivated. The setting is impressive. Clouds, colossal beings, fast-paced combat, lightning attacks. Literally, it was like an oh my god moment. The bosses in both games also share that epic, colossal vibe, where you really need to study their patterns and find out about the weaknesses. One of my favorite things is the visuals. Both games contain stunning visuals, with Nioh being as a dark yokai world and Black Myth as more of a traditional Monkey King world. Both games do a fantastic job of pulling you into their respective mythologies, making you feel like you're a part of these ancient mystical tales. Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. If you have played both games, then you'll notice some striking similarities, making these games feel like they're cut from the same cloth, even though they have their own distinct identities. First off, both games share that intense, fast-paced combat that is a mix of quick reflexes, timing, and enemy attack patterns. If you've enjoyed the challenge in Black Myth, then you'll feel right at home in Dynasty. The combat in both games is smooth, almost dance-like with a focus on timing and positioning. Now, one of the best similarities is that both games share the Chinese mythology and folklore. Fallen Dynasty throws you into a world of 3 kingdoms, demonic beasts, and legendary warriors. Black Myth, on the other hand, is inspired by the classic tale of Journey to the West.
Hunting that wise, no simple task. You do have some skill.
The mythical creatures, magical abilities, and the overall atmosphere in both games make you feel like you're stepping into a living, breathing legend. In terms of visuals, both games look stunning and have beautiful environments. Whether you're exploring the haunted landscapes of Fallen Dynasty or the mystical areas in Black Myth, there's a certain level of artistry that pulls you in, making you want to explore every corner. When I first played Fallen Dynasty, I remember I was overjoyed because I got the chance to explore a difficult kind of a Souls-like experience set in a Chinese mythology. Fallen Dynasty sure is difficult, but that's the best thing, as all such games have a knack for challenge. The sense of progression in both games feels somewhat similar. As you defeat enemies and bosses, you unlock new abilities and refine your combat skills. Phantom Blade. Sadly, you can't play this game right now because Phantom Blade is not available yet. Probably the game will be released in the next year or maybe even 2026. We can't say anything for sure. However, one thing is true, that the game will be huge. It's got that same combat-focused Souls-like vibe with a dark environment, sort of like Bloodborne. The game is set to become the next big hit in the action RPG genre. That's because of its combat systems, environments, and stunning visuals. Both Phantom and Black Myth share similarities in terms of fast-paced and skill-based combat. If you want to dive into more of a dark action experience, that's when Phantom Blade comes in handy. The game is a pure example of a new difficult Souls-like adventure set in a thrilling and dark environment. Literally, the only 2 reasons I'm excited for this game is because of the Bloodborne style and Souls-like combat. The fluidity of the combat in both Black Myth and Phantom Blade is what really stands out. There's a sense of flow and rhythm that keeps you hooked, especially when you pull off a perfect combo or dodge. Both games are a masterpiece in terms of visuals. You can tell that a lot of care has gone into making these worlds feel alive. They both have this cinematic quality that makes you want to stop and just take it all in, even when you're in the middle of a tough fight. As we know that Black Myth is a mix of beauty, action, mythology, mystical elements, fantasy world, Phantom Blade is more of a raw and brutal experience. This makes the game feel a bit more intense and grounded compared to the almost dreamlike quality of Black Myth. Both games have different settings. One is more of a mythological wonder, while the other is dark with its edgy atmosphere. Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy.
The darkness is so thick I can taste it.
I'll be honest with you guys, the only reason I first played this game is because of the Final Fantasy word. Everything else was secondary. I really loved the mix of combat and gameplay, but what caught my attention was the word Final Fantasy. The simplest way to describe this game is a mix of hack and Souls-like in Final Fantasy world. This is what the game is mostly about. You've got the whole kill chaos vibe. Your main job is to have fun and kill as many enemies as possible. The game rebranded Final Fantasy with a darker and action-focused experience. If you're familiar with the Final Fantasy games, you'll notice the nods to the original Final Fantasy game, but this one is way more in your face with its combat and storytelling. If you've played Neo or Ninja Gaiden, you'll feel right at home with the fast-paced hack and slash gameplay. The brief storyline is about a guy named Jack, whose main goal is to take down Chaos. He's one of those guys who just wants to complete his mission as soon as possible, which means that there's no side stuff and just get straight to killing enemies. Honestly, I really love this idea because this way you can experience combat at its peak. The thrill of just killing and causing chaos is exciting. One of the cool things is the job system, which lets you switch up your playstyle on the fly. You can mix and match abilities from different jobs, and it gives the combat this really dynamic feel. If you're into action-heavy games and don't mind a plot that's more on the wild side, then this game's for you. You could say that it shares a combat similarity to Black Myth. Both games take these iconic stories and reimagine them with a more action-driven focus. Lords of the Fallen. And as someone who played both Black Myth and Lords of the Fallen, I can tell you that there are some interesting similarities that you're gonna like if you're into action combat RPG. First off, both games share a love for brutal, punishing combat that really makes you think about your every move. Just like in Lords of the Fallen, where every swing of your weapon feels weighty and every dodge has to be perfectly timed, Black Myth Wukong demands the same kind of precision. The enemies are tough to beat. Lords is more of a Souls-like game, which means you won't see much of a fast-paced combat similar to Black Myth or Devil May Cry. However, despite that, both games still share a lot of combat similarities. If you're someone who has played all the major Souls games and are looking for something underrated, then Lords of the Fallen will be a nice choice as it's a combination of Souls-like and Black Myth. Lords throws you into these gloomy environments filled with towering, difficult enemies, while Black Myth brings a more mythical, yet equally eerie, Chinese folklore-inspired world. I'm a huge fan of Monkey King. It's truly a dream come true to play as him. I loved The Journey to the West. I know that a lot of you haven't watched the movie, therefore I'd say that you guys should. The movie series will also help you understand more about the Monkey King. You will learn about his powers, staff, his hilarious behavior, and insane strength. So, if you loved Lords of the Fallen's gloomy, dark environments, then try Black Myth, as both are cut from the same cloth, just wrapped in a new visually stunning world. Both games will push your skills to the limit, but they'll also reward you with that sweet satisfaction when you finally defeat a tough boss. Lost Soul aside. This game is not released yet, but when it does, it's gonna be epic. Lost Soul is a mix of so many different aspects. It gives me the feeling of Final Fantasy because of how the main character looks. The fast-paced combat reminds me of hack-and-slash games. The difficulty level and some other features give similar vibes to Souls-like. You could also say that it's a bit similar to Devil May Cry. Imagine the smoothness and fluidity of DMC and visuals of Final Fantasy combined together. There are a lot of flashy moves and combos that make you feel totally awesome. The combat is unique as you have got a shape-shifting dragon on your side. It's such an amazing and refreshing touch to include a dragon in the gameplay. Also, the visuals are absolutely stunning too. Every scene looks like a piece of art with a lot of attention to detail in the environments and character designs. It's one of those games where you can lose yourself for hours just exploring and battling enemies. The gameplay is challenging but fair, and it rewards you for mastering the combat system. Now, if we talk about the similarities, then the only good thing is the combat. You'll notice some similar elements in the combat of both games. Sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's fast-paced or purely hack and slash, but it's true that you'll love the thrill. Another factor will be the visuals. Even though both games have different settings, you can't help but admire the amazing visuals. If you're into fast-paced action with a mix of RPG elements, Lost Soul aside is definitely worth checking out. It's got that perfect blend of style and action that keeps you coming back for more. Enslaved Odyssey to the West. It's one of those games that sneaks up on you with how much heart it has. What's cool about this game is how it blends intense action with a deep emotional story. You have got two amazing characters, Monkey and Trip. Monkey is this awesome fighter who can climb up anything and defeat enemies with satisfying combat, but what really pulls you in is his relationship with Trip. At first, they're just trying to survive together, with Trip controlling Monkey through this headband that can literally kill him if she wants. But as you go along, you see them grow from uneasy allies into something more, and that journey is what sticks with you. The game's got a lot of heart. It makes you care about these characters. All I'm trying to say is that it's a beautiful game and definitely shares a lot of similarity to Black Myth, as both games share elements of Journey to the West. The gameplay is a mix of combat and puzzles, but it's the story and character development that really make Enslaved stand out. It's not the longest game, but it's one that leaves an impression. It's like a hidden gem and contains those moments where a game makes you feel something beyond just the action on the screen. Both Black Myth and Odyssey are two different explanations or portraits of the same legendary tale of Journey to the West, each bringing its own taste to the tale. If you enjoyed one, there's a good chance you'll appreciate what the other brings to the table, whether it's the deep mythology of Black Myth or the emotional journey of Enslaved. If you love Journey to the West, then you will definitely love Black Myth, as it's the most similar one. However, if you want to experience more of a spin-off set in a futuristic world, then Enslaved will be a great choice. Lies of P. So you don't have mythological stuff, but if we compare Lies of P to other Souls game, then it definitely has a touching storyline and characters. The reason I want you guys to play this game is if you are looking for some hardcore battles, create NPCs, and an engaging storyline. Obliviously, if you like Chinese mythology content in Black Myth, you won't find it here, but instead you'll get something more. Lies of P is one of the best Souls games and can be a suitable choice for every newcomer. The writers did a great job. It's as if they added a soul to this game by adding such great characters and their dialogues. Each character in this game plays a vital role in shaping the storyline. The overall story is also loaded with twists, touching moments, and beautiful cutscenes. Lies of P is a reimagining of the Pinocchio story, but don't let that fool you. This game is dark and full of challenging encounters. Like Black Myth, it borrows heavily from the Souls-like genre, demanding precision and patience from its players. Every corner hides a new threat or a twisted version of a familiar character, much like how Black Myth twists and turns through its legendary source material. As a player who played both games, the main similarity is how each game forces you to master the combat and offers a wide range of customizations. You'll need to learn the attack patterns, combos, parrying, dodging, and other necessary stuff. The narrative in both is rooted in well-known stories but delivered in a way that's fresh and engaging. Both games offer a challenging experience while unraveling tales that of myth and legend. I know that some of you have already played this game, but for those of you who haven't, then you're missing out on a great action adventure. Before I reveal my final pick, here are some honorable mentions. Naraka Blade Point. Both games are set in Chinese mythology and culture, giving them an immersive feel that's different from your typical fantasy or action games. I know that the game is multiplayer, but it's one of the games that comes to my mind when I think of action Chinese games. The game is more of a battle royale than a single-player adventure. The way you can combo attacks, dodge, and use special abilities in Black Myth will feel familiar in Blade Point. In both games, you're also looking at some stunning visuals and animations that make every fight feel epic. The artistic styles are different but complementary. Black Myth is more of a realistic fantasy aesthetic, while Naraka has a slightly more stylized, vibrant look. Next one is Devil May Cry 5. DMC series has always been our favorite pick because of the overall combat and characters. The fifth part is the ultimate tribute and send-off to the brothers' rivalry. It's one hell of a ride filled with epic cutscenes, flawless combat, and hilarious characters. I'm a huge fan of Dante, and seeing him in a refined, updated manner is a feast for the eyes. Every moment feels amazing and every attack feels powerful. From the start of the game, you're struck with this overpowered feeling that there is some ultra-powerful being you have to kill. EMC5 is a game that nails everything perfectly. You can't help but feel immersive. Our last bonus game is Dark Souls series. This series is certainly not an accurate pick, but it does share similarities in terms of combat. Let's face it, there aren't many amazing mythological games similar to Black Myth, so I had to include Dark Souls as my final bonus game choice. I don't think that the series needs any description. Every one of us has heard about how difficult and amazing the game is. It's certainly not for everyone, but players like me who completed the series know that Dark Souls is one of the finest series. The thrill of dying multiple times and getting back up is no joke. At every step you learn and get better. This is the only cheat code. You must adapt and get good. Or you can get an overpowered weapon and cheese through the enemies. God of War series. This might not be everyone's favorite pick when we talk about similar games to Black Myth. However, God of War comes close because both games showcase a powerful main character and mythological elements. I won't talk about the old parts because of the outdated graphics and visuals, but if you can adjust, then you're in a treat for some great Greek mythology content. Anyways, I highly recommend that you guys try the newest God of War games. Both 2018 and Ragnarok provide the best storylines, vast number of characters, splendid environments, and a lot of action. In both Black Myth and God of War, you'll be diving deep into ancient stories and bringing them to life with incredible detail. They both share that cinematic quality where you're constantly pulled into the story through amazing cutscenes and seamless transitions between gameplay and narrative. There's also this sense of journey in both games. In God of War, you're traveling through these amazing realms with Kratos, while in Black Myth, you're on a mythical quest through a beautiful world inspired by the Chinese mythology. What really stands out is how both games make you feel like a true warrior, facing down gods and monsters, using all your skills and abilities. Black Myth has that same mix of brutal combat and deep storytelling that made God of War so unforgettable. It's not just about the fights, but the emotional journey you go on, connecting with the character you're playing, whether it's Kratos or the Monkey King. If you loved the feeling of stepping into a mythic world and living out an epic tale in Black Myth, then you'll feel home in God of War. Alright, this finishes our list of the 10 best games similar to Black Myth. All these games share similarities such as a mix of combat, engaging storytelling, colossal enemies, powerful main character, and amazing environment. If you loved playing as the Monkey King, then you'll feel a great thrill in playing these games because of how awesome they are. The sense of accomplishment after beating a difficult boss, or the goosebumps of a great cutscenes. One thing is for sure that you'll surely be amazed. Anyways, if you have made it this far, then please subscribe as we are close to reaching 20,000 subscribers.